3 we operated yesterday. One succumbed this morning to the injuries. He had severe abdominal injuries from the gunshot wound.
Wakati wana maji, nilikuwa kwa ploti. Sasa nikatoka nione vile wanakimbizwa. Chungulia tu hivi. Kastukia tu niko chini. Sikujua kama nimepigwa risasi juu nilianguka. Kajikuta hapa.
Uliza mbona umekata mguu? Mbona umekata mguu yangu? Wakaniambia iliumia sana. Risasi ilipita na veins mingi. Sasa haingewezekana kurekebisha.
Ni kama mimi naona ni kama mtu aliambia hawa misinformation na vile walikuwa ni mob wakaanza kutumia tu. So sielewi kabisa kwa sababu mimi nimefanya kazi miaka mingi.
All right, so those are just some of the voices of persons affected, but also a medical officer there speaking about the situation of one of the patients. And there are more stories that we've covered since that day of the protests that details the exact impact this has had on several people. Many have been injured, many have died, close to 30, like one of the panelists here says. But Honorable Mugabe, tell me, because this is, should I just call it a crisis? Is it a political crisis? Is it a crisis of cost of living? But anyway, there's a crisis. What responsibility should demonstrators and the organizers of demonstrations take for the loss of lives, destruction of property, and injuries to police officers?
Thank you. I think what should happen in upholding our rule of law and also in accordance to our constitution is that demonstrations, picketing is allowed by law. And the duty of the police officers or our law enforcers is to ensure that there is law and order. Their role is actually even to protect those protesters against criminals masquerading as protesters to take advantage of the situation. The work of the police is try and identify. But who are these? Who are these?
A very specific question.
Who are these
responsibility
people?
Of demonstrators?
It's okay. I'm waiting for the answer.
And as I'm trying to explain that demonstrations are always peaceful until the police provoke or some people masquerading as protesters join in to take advantage of the situation. And in some instances...
Wait. Until protesters are provoked, do they have to get provoked?
You know, when people are protesting, then the policemen come. Instead of giving them protection, they open fire to them, they throw tear gas to them, they open water canisters to them. Then the people sometimes become, they want self-defense. So they would use anything maybe around just to make sure that
let me ask you,
they escape the
because
situation.
I've asked you of two things.
Yes.
The protesters themselves, but also the organizers. Because days before, or I think a day or two before the demonstrations, the police came out and said these demonstrations are illegal. And therefore, something illegal would have to be dealt with.
They cannot be illegal. They cannot be illegal.
Just hold on.
Yeah.
It's not my opinion. I'm saying what the police say.
Yes.
So they said that they are going to be illegal. So they would ordinarily prepare on how to deal with them. So how do you take responsibility for something that has already been determined to be illegal?
And that's the problem. Demonstrations cannot be legal. They can never be legal. Which law provides for that? Because
Act talks about notification.
No, it is notification. You just notify the police. They don't need to accept that you go on with the demonstration. You just need to make a notification to make them aware.
Notification that was made at any
all the times notifications are made. All the times. All the times.
I'll get to
times notifications are made.
Was there any notification made this time?
How did the people get out to the streets if there was no notification made?
No. I'm talking about what the Public Order Act provides. That it talks about notification.
Yes, the police were notified some. The real issue is that the police were saying they do not want us to do demonstrations because the reality is that they want to suspend the constitution. They do not want the demos. That's a fact. So it's not a matter of the notification because I mean, the police, just like they did with Pauline Njoroge, they'll arrest you and put something in your pocket and say, this is what we found with you. The police can say they didn't receive the letters. We can show you the copies of the letters that we wrote to them. But the fact is this, Sam, the police are not being asked for permission. They're informed for purposes of them providing security, as he has said. And that we all know, every Kenyan knows that the police were aware that there are going to be demos, because every Kenyan knew there were going to be demos. Yeah. So there's no letter written in a certain format.
That's okay.
That is what is going to be the determinant of whether they were informed. That's
okay. Honorable Mbui, yes. I'm just looking for facts here, because previously in March, during the demonstrations, I saw several notifications that are being taken by your leadership to the police stations, including Central Police. Usually they would be rejected. So this time round, was there any written notification that was made?
Yes, Sam, because what happened...
This time, no. That's not a fact.
Let me speak, unless you become the Inspector General.
Just respond. Don't be provoked.
You know, Sam, I must be honest today, I'm very unhappy because I know we've lost over 30 lives. And for us to talk about these things like it's a joke, it's very unfortunate. Because the minute a person loses their life, that is something that we should take concern.
None of the planners have lost life.
Should take concern. You know, we cannot lose one life, another life. You hear a young man was shot 9 times in the chest, obviously with the real intention of killing them, and then we come and talk around here as if it's a small issue, and then we say, oh, you know, we can get out with it. The fact is this, that we said we are devolving the demonstrations. We will demonstrate in every corner. Now, there was no central place for one letter to be given. So every area where people were demonstrating, they took their letters to their regions. How come not all the police stations and OCSs said they didn't receive the letters? It was only the Inspector General and his team in Nairobi here. So the fact is that we did notify them. They knew that the demonstrations are going to be there. The purpose of this demonstration, the purpose of the police was to be notified so they could provide security. Unfortunately, some, you know, before the election, we were told freedom is coming. You know, and we are told we are going to get a God-fearing leadership. If 30 people have died, they have shed the blood of 30 innocent Kenyans, and then you stand here on TV and tell us these people are crooks because they are holding stones. So they deserve to die because they had stones. That's what we are being told here. It's an unfortunate. What we've done is we've slid back completely and lost the script. I think human life must be treated with the sanctity it deserves, and we must, all of us, condemn violence in whatever nature. I have said it here, Sam, last week when I was here, that I condemn violence in any nature, even from the demonstrators. I don't think it's right for demonstrators to go break shops and loot. But then, isn't that the purpose of the police, to go and arrest those people that have done that criminal activity because they know that there is a demo and they are in the neighborhood, and that person is taken to jail? Taken to court and jailed. That is what we want. But now the situation we are going through, some here, and is a situation where the innocent Kenyans are killed. Then we are told these people are demonstrators. These people had stones, therefore they should be killed. And life goes on. I think we have to reach a point where we put a stop to all this. And I think at the end of the day, I think the president and the deputy must also come out of that situation I'm hearing being discussed here. It's like, it's taken them almost a year to confirm that they are president and deputy president. Uhuru said he gave the sword of leadership and the constitution to William Samoei Ruto. Why is it almost a year later we are still talking about whether we are president or not president? That is not an issue. It's actually
not talking of whether he's president or not president.
About that.
The issue here is this fact of that there is a government in place. The issue here is, what are these people demonstrating about? If you'd ask them an honest one, what are they demonstrating about?
I can answer that
And
question.
Why should vehicles be driven from some areas to other areas? When the cost of living is in some places and not in some other places? Why are you organizing the desperate Kenyans who are living from hand to mouth when the government is trying to fix their lives? Then you run to them and start telling them, why are these people, when all these things are happening, why don't we see, like on Wednesday, when things became very tough and they were told it's not going to be allowed, why did we see their leaders there? We only saw the unfortunate, innocent young boys who are desperately looking for jobs. And they go out there and they send the children there, and then they don't follow them.
So you wanted to
all right, just hold it. I want us to listen to a voice, then I can hear from Honorable Baya here. He's been a bit quiet. On some leaders from the Kenya Human Rights Commission on the account of what has been going on.
From July 7th to 19th, civil society organizations have reported 27 extrajudicial, summary, and arbitrary executions. While President Ruto has promised to end the era of police killer squads, the recent unfolding events reveal that the security agencies have clear intentions to execute protesters.
All right, and Honorable Baya,
Yes.
I mean, we may disagree on so many issues.
Yes.
Politics, policy, who is president, who is not, who will be, who will not. But when 27 people lose their lives, these are families affected. Do you see a path towards a solution to ensuring that no other person dies unnecessarily?
Sam, I'll tell you this. I've had the Honorable Raila Odinga speak about this, and he said, well, we have our martyrs. That's what he said. There's a statement that said these people who died are martyrs of the struggle for freedom. When I listened to that, I said, all right, so how many martyrs have we had since Raila Odinga started seeking the presidency? And how many more people must continue to die because somebody is trying to seek leadership? Sam, I have been very clear. I was a member of ODM. I disagreed with them on these issues. The issues that government says, let's come discuss. Honorable Mbu here, we were in the same coalition with him. His leg, I don't know whether he has properly healed, but it was once broken. I questioned, why do we want to go on these violent demonstrations all the time? Why does a country have to go through this trail all the time after an election? This is not about cost of living. It's not about it. It is about a known path for Raila Odinga after every election. Unfortunately, my brother here has never seen the light. He has continued to be part of that system without going out to speak against that. When I was in ODM, I spoke against it. I said we cannot continue to take a country through this pathway every after election. These things come after every election, and it is a known fact. The only thing is, my brothers on the other side think that this is the pathway to go. We just need something small. Oh, finance bill. This finance bill we will hold, move around, latch it, so that it becomes a big thing, so that we can do the normal things that we do after every election. Sam, these are post-election violence. Just like it took place in 2007, it took place after 2013, it took place 2017. It's a pattern that is known. This is not at all protests or demos. This is post-election violence that is organized by the person who's known for doing that. And we need to call a spade, not a big spoon. Honorable Mbui has participated in these things after every election, and he knows it. And it is not about the cost of living. It was there in 2007, it was there in 2013, and it will continue to be there as long as Raila Odinga loses an election, there'll be protests. And that is the truth, and we cannot gainsay that. This idea of cost of living is something that they latch on to seek a place for Raila Odinga in government. And we have been very clear, we will not give in to this as a government.
I think that
you see, I want to continue and say this. I want to continue to say this. It is unfortunate that people are losing lives. Very unfortunate. And as a country, we must continue to condemn the loss of lives under whoever hand. But even these civil society organizations also tell us how many police officers have died. They need to tell us how many police officers have been injured. They need to tell us how many other people died, not because of a police bullet.
Do you know how many police officers have died?
Last time when Professor Kindiki talked about it, I think after the first demo, I think there were around 4 police officers who had died in Nyanza. Yes. No. And that is a fact.
That's a lie.
Yes, it is not a lie. Just check the archives, check the and you'll see that the Minister for Interior said police officers have died. And we have seen it. That guy who was hit by that catapult died. And that is a fact. There are police officers who are in hospital injured because of this protest. When is a police officer's life important as that of a protester? Again, Sam, when we look at this protest, peaceful, you know, Honorable Bush says, you know, when they go out there to raid a departmental store or a supermarket, the police should just go there and pick them and arrest them and do that. Have you seen the situation when these guys are demonstrating? Is it possible to go just out there as a police officer to pick one person? They're violent people. We saw protests in South Africa.
So what's the right solution?
Let me finish this. We saw protests in South Africa. And I think Malema spoke about it. We saw a huge protest in South Africa that was peaceful. And they made known their views. We have seen protests in other parts of the country, where in the world, where people come out and demonstrate. Why is it different in Kenya? Protests are not just happening in Kenya. Demos are not just happening.
What would it take for us to implement Article 37 of the Constitution?
Because the organizers have not wanted to implement the full scale of Article 37.
No, I'm asking, what would it take?
I want to finish my point before I come to that. I'll come to that. In Kilifi, where I've been in the village for the last 2 weeks. When the protests were called, I think on the 27th, at 6 o'clock in the morning, the protest was supposed to start at 6 o'clock. Young people were already out burning tires and blocking roads. And they have huge rocks, you know, even before the police came out. So I called to say, what time did the demonstrators tell you they will start the protest? What time? Because the letter to the OCS, actually the letter is supposed to be written to the OCS. If I organize a protest, we have organized demos for civil societies, for other issues, yeah? You write and say, we have protests on this day and these times, and we will cover this route from this point to this point, and we will end here. And the police would call you and say, okay, come as an organizer, let's arrange security. Okay, so you go and say, okay, how many protesters will you have? This much. Do you have water? We have this. Do you need a police vehicle to help you open the road? Yes, that is what I need. Do you think there'll be any violent things? If the police have had their investigations to know, probably there will be instances of violence or what. They will tell you, you see, yes, you want to do this. But we think there will be a problem here because there are people who are opposed to your demo, and therefore there will be skirmishes here. So before you go take your protesters into something that is risky, please reschedule.
You think that is possible to do?
It is possible to do it. It is possible. Okay. The organizers just need to be responsible. Robert Mbui here, when he goes, and you know, Robert confesses that when they held the demonstration in Ukambani, in Kathiani, with his party leader, it was peaceful. It was peaceful. And the police did nothing. The police actually protected them until they finished their cause. And it was peaceful. We saw it. And we saw, actually, Robert Mbui needs to sit with his party, these other guys, and tell them, this is the way to organize protests. And we will have protests here every day without any shop being looted, without anybody getting injured, without any... That is possible in this country only when the organizers take responsibility and only when they are clear about the motive. What is the motive of this protest? Are these post-election violence is being organized? Have they brought a guerrilla war to the streets of Nairobi?
Wait.
Or
so there's motive also. How do you measure that, the motive?
The motive, you know, the motive, I've been very clear on the motive. The motive is not about high cost of living. The motive is not about the finance bill. It is not. I have read what Kalonzo Musyoka told the envoys when he had a meeting with the envoys, and the envoys went to him and told him, look, we have a problem here because we are seeing the protests and all that. He said, you see, we need the servers to be opened. We need IBC to be reconstituted in a certain way. We need... And I thought...
So are you then saying, as long as those are the issues that Azimio brings on the table, they will never be allowed to have demonstrations in this country?
The Azimio will be allowed to have demonstrations. The president has been very clear. In fact...
I'm talking about those issues because you're talking about motive.
Yes, the motive. Is the motive to destroy property? Is the motive to injure? Why do they come with stones? Why do they burn tires?
No.
Why do they bring...
You're moving away from my question. So I'll move away from you and listen to something else of what happened in Karen. The former president was in the vicinity. This is what he said.
And as you know, I have been quiet. But being quiet does not mean I will not defend my family. I will defend my family, right? And I will defend it to the end, all right? I defended Kenya and I did my best for this country, okay? You may not think, whoever has that opinion, that is an opinion. But according to me, I did the best I could do for my country, all right? And I handed over when my time was finished. And I will now do the best that I can do to defend my family.
All right, that's former president speaking about defending his country. He told the story of some police officers who arrived in some foreign number plates and they wanted to get into the building to talk about firearms that are that are in the hands of some of the family members of the former president. But the president has responded saying this.
We must, whatever it is, whatever disagreements we have, we must always be responsible to know we have one nation called Kenya, and we cannot sabotage or destroy our nation. And the same way, you guys, vile nyinyi, the same way you guys are looking after your families, making sure that they are protected, making sure that they have jobs, making sure that they are members of parliament. I want to tell you, I too have a responsibility to protect the children of the rest of Kenya.
Let me begin with who do I start with between the two of you? Let me begin with you.
Yeah.
What is going on to start us off?
I think, Sam, you showed us the video of the former president, but I think also Citizen TV went ahead to show us what had happened earlier on. I think there was a news story I saw where these officers from the Bureau of Firearm Licensing, came out and in a polite way, and they said, we need this and this and this and this. And they said it in a very, very polite way. But of course, media has its own way. This is what they show. This is what they show.
You saw it on Citizen TV, didn't you?
Yes, I saw it on Citizen TV.
What is the problem?
But you should also have showed us, the other one. Why did the police visit the former president's son? Yes, but you see, what has been spun around is this thing of just the president coming out. Of course, I thank Citizen TV because they brought out the other story. But majorly, every time the discussion point is not about that. Firearms are out there. The police, in their investigation, saw that there are a lot of firearms in the wrong hands. Probably some of the licensed firearms have been used in these protests and are being used in these protests. And the country, that the way things are with these protesters, very soon, probably the organizers of these protesters will want to start arming these people to start challenging the police, not with stones this time, but with guns. And this country needs to be secure. And those guns are coming from the former president's family? The guns are in people's houses. In 2017, we saw Jimmy Wanjigi, 2017, around 2021. Yes, we saw the police under the same president raid Jimmy Wanjigi's house, and they broke into that house. What did they say they were looking for? Guns. Why were they looking for those guns at that particular time? Why is it different now? When it was okay to raid Jimmy Wanjigi, and I think the former prime minister went and to help Jimmy, and he was there throughout, trying to be there and say, So is it about similarity of it is not what I'm trying to say. Why is this of taking a certain action? Why is this a big issue? When the Firearms Bureau goes and asks, in fact, it is in a very civil way. The Firearms people. I think you didn't understand my question. Yes. What I'm asking is, why is this happening at this point in time? Because, and I want to be very clear so that you get my answer, because there's a very big possibility that guns will land in the wrong hands at this particular time when this country has been ignited to the high level of, insecurity in a way. And do you suspect the president and his family, the former president and his family, are behind those? No, we're not saying that. We are saying whoever has guns that are very many, please return these guns. Why do you want to have 28 guns?
But some here we are discussing issues of security. We are discussing the security of this country.
I'll get to you. Let me just hear from Honorable Owen. But so you're saying everyone who has a lot of guns to take them back?
And it is actually there's a statement that said by Professor Kindiki. There's a statement that was done by Professor Kindiki where he said they had visited over 4 homes or 5 homes within Karen, where they know there are many guns in those homes, and they had asked those people to surrender the guns. So it is not just about the president's family. There are several other families within Karen and other parts of this country who have been told to surrender the guns. And therefore, this is not people.
So apart from the president's family, which other family?
No, if you read the Kindiki's statement, I think it was very clear that several other families.
No, because you read it, which other families?
Yes, he didn't name the families, but he said several other families had been visited and requested to hand in the guns. And therefore, this is not the only place that the police went to look for those guns. And those are facts.
Some allow me on the issue of firearms. I have a burning issue to raise. On the issue of firearms, first and foremost, all licensed firearm holders in Kenya, their firearms have been taken through ballistic tests by the police. And so any any bullet that has been shot can actually be traced back to the actual gun that it was shot from. And in fact, it would be the first thing I would expect the police to do, because all these people that have been shot, you're not hearing the police talking about who shot them. If that was the issue, the ballistic test will show. Every single bullet shot can actually be confirmed. This came from Officer so-and-so's firearm or a certain individual licensed firearm holder. But on this matter of the harassment that we are seeing of the immediate former president, I think it's also going below our level as a country, because for me it concerns me about the future, Sam, because if you're the head of state today and you harass the immediate former head of state, then how comfortable would you be to leave that office to another person after 10 years, assuming you continue and serve 2 terms? You know, because if you can harass an immediate former president, then it means you can also be harassed. So if you see someone with that kind of trajectory, believe you me, the one thing they must start figuring out is how to stay in office indefinitely.
I think that's the wrong way of putting it.
Just hold on.
It's the wrong way of putting it.
Honorable Bayer, let's listen to what the former president said about guns and the such.
How many people are licensed to hold weapons in this country? Yeah? Did they not follow the right procedure? Tell us, tell the world. If it's a question of illegal weapons, then tell the world, yeah, these people have illegal weapons, right? But if they are licensed weapons, how many people in Kenya have licensed weapons, even foreigners?
The Cabinet Secretary's statement, that is Kithure Kindiki, I'm getting to you, Honorable Muratha. Paragraph 5 says that today afternoon, that is, which day was that? Was it on Friday? An operation has been going on targeting 3 homesteads within the Karen area, where a total of 23 firearms, some of which are suspected to have been used in illegal activities, are kept. And also says that the operation is part of a broad operation targeting scores of firearm holders who are reasonably suspected to be availing firearms not only for purposes of supporting violent protests, but also other illegal activities. And also says that on 19th of July, there's a prime suspect who was arrested or preparing to distribute a large number of crude weapons to facilitate criminals to inflict violence on the public during the last 3 days of violent protests. And the suspect was found in possession of 14 machetes, 24 swords, 46 rungus, and over 400 sachets of assorted narcotic drugs, including cannabis sativa and cocaine. Also found with him were documents describing the distribution of 42 million shillings across 11 counties in Nairobi, Central and Rift Valley regions. And looking at that statement and what has been in the public domain, I'm just wondering, because we don't have a lot of former presidents in the country. In fact, 3 of them...
We only have one.
Okay, this is what I mean. 3 of them are dead. So we're going to have one in the name of Uhuru Kenyatta. So it must be interesting to see action being taken on a person that just 10 months ago was the commander-in-chief. Why him?
Sam, let me tell you, if there is something that we would dread imagining, is the harassment of the family of Kenyatta. That's a treasure that we really need to take care of in this country, considering the founding father is the father of the now retired president of this country. If there is something and a treasure that needs to be treasured in this country in terms of family, that is the family that needs to be really treasured, being the family of the founding father of this nation. The other noble thing that the past president did is handing over power to the president that is now the current president of this country. But number one, the one thing that everybody knows and need to accept is that the former president Uhuru Kenyatta is a darling to Kenyan. There are people that are just lovable, people that are just acceptable to human beings, and he's a loved person. But the unfortunate thing that we have and this one we must say, when our president retired, he did the noble thing. In fact, his exit looked very excellent. When he handed over power and he said, my time is over, and now I hand over power to the person who has won the election. If he had listened to some people, like now the people who are in these demonstrations and everything, possibly he would not have given off power. But now coming to your question, we come to a point where we see the president that we really respect again now in the dark, in the murky waters of Jubilee, again being dragged into some funny elections, and to me I felt very unfortunate, and especially me being the woman representative of his home county. I really felt these are things I would not even want to discuss, because this is a family we would really want to respect. And just as the former presidents have done, they have retired and gone quiet and handled with care by the presidents that are there. I would really wish that President Uhuru, loved as he is by the people, because President Uhuru Kenyatta is loved by the people of Kenya. He is loved by the people of Kenya. But you see now, the fact that he has retired, given power properly, and then again goes back to the murky waters of Azimio and start working with these people.
How has he?
Then it is in the public domain. We saw him in the elections of Jubilee, and he went going again and saying it is his party, which we know is not supposed to happen, because we ought to have exited that seat, because he is now a retired president. But he said he's not going to exit, he's going to be there. And you see now the politics of this country, and a time when he is saying that... So he's being
punished for that, or what? What do you mean?
Not really being punished, because it also depends on what are you doing. Because what you are asking us, and maybe sometimes this is why you are finding it, even for all of us, to getting a bit hesitant. We are talking of matter security of this country. Like now when the security people come to your home, and I remember you asking me, why did they come with foreign numbers? There are issues that are internal in security matters. When the police are coming to arrest you, they will not tell you we are here with the GK vehicles and with all the guns and we are coming. We are only coming to investigate what is happening because of maybe what we have heard. We have an intelligence in this country that is saying, how are these things being planned? Why are these people talking of demonstration? And then when they come in the morning, we see something different. So what is this that is happening? We have an intelligence in this country that possibly is looking at what these people are doing. And then it goes around to where it is happening. And it goes around and then they're trying to find out how did we end up here? Who are the people getting involved? And you realize there are people who even don't know that are also getting involved in the whole issue, because the intelligence has to go around and find out. This is not just a normal...
intelligence, not political.
No, it is not political. It is the intelligence that is now trying to see what is happening.
Let's listen to a politician who is in government saying this, and then we'll assess whether it's political or it's intelligence. Yes. Watch.
Hata ukilialia huko Karen, ukilia mtoto yangu, mama yangu, hiyo sisi hatujali. The law will catch up with you. Na tafadhali utafute kijana anaitwa Rashid Yakub, ndio mkubwa wa licensing board hapa Kenya. Mrudishe hizo silaha. Wewe na familia yako mkiendelea kupatia pesa za funding ya maandamano, wewe ukiweka silaha kinyume na sheria, Mr. President, nataka nikwambie wewe umestaafu, so you are not above the law.
So how is that not political when he is talking about financing maandamano And he is the Cabinet Secretary for Defense, not Interior Security.
So how do you get to know he's the one financing Maandamano? How did they get to know? Personally, I may not have been the one who got to know about it. But you see, there is an intelligence that is investigating where are these people getting the funding. And you see now, when immediately the intelligence informs now the leaders. So the leaders now start talking about it, and the politicians go drumming about what they have had is happening.
The Cabinet Secretary for Defense, not even Interior.
Yes.
Why is he speaking about a matter such as that? He's not in charge of intelligence, he's not in charge of investigations. Neither about guns.
So he would be the better person to explain why he is doing it, because he's not supposed to do it. Then he is in the better place to explain why he's doing it. But you see, sometimes things will get bad to a point that now every Kenyan now feel, even Wakenya wametoka kwa street, and they are saying, we are tired. Why would we close our shops for 5 days and we have children going to school just because somebody wants to remain to go to? And when people start talking, you don't say, you cannot say that because it's not allowed. You see, for him, he is the only one who can explain why he is the one speaking about it.
I hear Honorable Murada, and I'll give you another opportunity. Honorable Mugabe, so where do we go from here? Because everyone appears to know everything about investigations going on in the country. I saw the Majority Whip, Silvana Sosoro, telling Kenyans of what they don't know, and so passionately prosecuting a case in the court of public opinion. So how do you know the truth from politics?
Yeah, we are a country that has proper laws, proper judiciary system. If there is anything wrong, there are mechanisms to address that. And these should be backed up by proper and sound evidence. When you say someone is financing a demonstration, we have systems that can be able to trail, look at the movement of cash and trail it and link it to somebody. You don't need to come and tell us that on TV. It is your duty to go and work out on the evidence, take this person to court and prosecute the matter. You don't need to come and tell us that on TV. To me, I find it to be very uncouth that a government would go for its immediate former president with such accusations. If they wanted the guns, there are mechanisms that this person was licensed properly or not. If this person is holding a gun illegally, then there are mechanisms to do that. Not going to raid their homes. And if for any reason you suspect that their guns were used, there are mechanisms to find out which gun was used. Then you can trace it to that particular gun and retrieve it. But to me, what I'm seeing are diversionary tactics, are excuses, are skeptics for the cluelessness of governance in Kenya Kwanza. 8 months down the line, there's nothing tangible that you are seeing coming out of this government. And the government should learn to listen to the voice of Kenyans. It is not about Raila Odinga. It is not about Uhuru Kenyatta or Kalonzo Musyoka. It is about the Kenyans. And Article 10(2)(a) of the Constitution clearly says, on principle of governance, there must be public participation. When things are going down, when the cost of living is going up and Kenyans are reacting, Kenyans reacted to the finance bill, now the finance act. The government chose not to listen to the voices of the people. Even my friend here, Owen, knows very well. His people told him that particular bill is not good for us with the current situation. Don't vote for it. Because the situation currently economically is bad.
Are you saying he didn't listen to his people?
They don't.
They don't. And you know, they have decided to bury their heads in the sand like the proverbial ostrich. And until they come out of that, they remove their head from that sand.
I need to...
Kenya the trend will get worse. We are now seeing demonstrations coming from areas that never I've never witnessed such.
There are never demonstrations.
We've seen in Makueni. We saw it in Nyeri. We saw it in Nanyuki. We saw it in Kitengela. We've seen what is happening in Kisii. This should be a wake-up call to the government that it is time to listen to the masses. It is time to listen to the plight that is facing Kenyans today. Look at where the dollar against the shilling is right now. And we import a lot of these things. What does that mean? What does that tell you? The price of commodities are going up. We've added tax on fuel, which again, the ripple effect of that is that cost of living will definitely go up. We've gone further to raid people's salaries that cannot sustain them, and we want to get more money out of it without giving even clear direction or clear plans on how to produce and export more as a country to earn more income. So what will happen? People will react, and the people are reacting. It is not about Raila. The moment the government realizes that this is about the Kenyan people and not about what would call the Azimio leadership, that is the time we'll have sober discussion.
But while you were there, because you took us there, never mind, we were talking about the Kenyatta drama that we saw. So what are those specific solutions you'd want to see implemented and stop this maandamano and stuff?
You see, some, as at now, or this particular financial year, or this particular period when the president came into power, what he needed to do is to give Kenyans confidence about his leadership, and that should have started even with his appointments. When you look at the appointments, they lacked what you call meritocracy.
No, Honorable Mugabe.
Yeah.
Don't take me there.
Mugabe.
I've asked a specific question.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying then appoint people with merit, number one, to provide proper leadership, because we are seeing a lot of cluelessness in governance. That is number one. Number two, there's a lot of loopholes in terms of revenue loss, in terms of corruption. What we've seen in this government is corruption scandals coming in day after day. We've seen the scandal of, I think, sugar in Kiambu. We've seen the recent one that is coming up.
You're giving him
the issue of
to say a lot of things.
The issue of
that he needs to
Kenya Petroleum refineries.
Allow me.
Let us seal loopholes of corruption. Let us give confidence.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, that is what we need to do right now.
Just
if we seal, then we'll have revenue.
Wait, you know, you're talking about the concerns that are driving Kenyans into the demonstrations.
Yes.
So now you're saying the solution is to appoint people on merit.
To provide proper governance.
When should that be done?
Immediately.
To fire who? Because the oppositions appear
all of them.
You see,
to fire
some. We've seen these appointees. We've seen these appointees. We've seen how they behave. You've just shown us here a clip of a defense minister talking about matters that.
So you want duly fired?
Of course. And all of them.
And employ who?
Nobody. Then employ people on merit.
Who?
We don't have specific names. There are procedures to get people with merit.
Hold it. If the president fires his cabinet, the demonstrations will cease.
The demonstration will not cease immediately. There are a number of things that must be done, not just one.
And that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, it is it's a whole continuum of issues that must be addressed. And I've talked about issues of governance. I've talked about issues of corruption. I've talked about issues of cost of living. Instead of increasing taxes right now, it is not. Let us suspend the finance bill,
the Finance Act right now by the court. What more do you want the government to do?
The court have just given a small period of suspension. We want to get the goodwill from. We want to get the goodwill from the government to understand, to listen to the voices of the people and act on it. But they are busy appealing or working on.
How do you want the government to do it?
On it. You see, this is not the right time.
No. It's the right time because there will be demonstrations on Wednesday, unless what you're suggesting is done.
They pull out the.
If they pull out the finance act today.
How do you want
Then what will happen?
No, just hold it. Honorable, please, Honorable Mugabe, how do you want it done?
you know,
back to us.
suspend that or send it back to Parliament.
Send it back to Parliament.
Sam, honestly, let's talk about this. We have been elected to represent...
Mugabe is a member of Parliament. He knows procedure. An honorable boy here knows procedure. When an act of Parliament passes, even if we do not pass, we don't agree, but you know, an act of a bill has some life. Even if the president refuses to assent to that act, that finance bill, as long as it is passed, there's a period of time where it gets into a force. Today they sit here, they say president should cancel a finance bill, or president should do this. They know the procedure. If they have a problem with the finance bill, they should bring amendment to it. It has been passed by Parliament. The same Parliament can, as a member of Parliament, go to Parliament and says, I want to make amendment to this finance bill. Why haven't they used that possibility? Let me finish this. Secondly, that finance bill can only be, as it stands right now, be revoked by a court of law, either in totality or articles of it or clauses of it. You know, a court of law can say this and this and this and this. But the president right now, as long as he signed that act, the bus has left. He can't recall it.
There's no way Parliament can review.
The only way is for Mugabe, the way he's speaking here on TV. I want to see his prowess in Parliament. I want him to bring amendments to it, to say, I want to amend this act. Or they bring an act, they bring a bill in Parliament.
That act.
Yes, they bring a bill in Parliament and say, this is the alternative, and they take it through the process.
This is not something the government side would be willing to do.
Because we know that this finance bill is well thought out. This finance bill will cure the problems of this country.
Okay.
There will be pains here and there, but eventually this finance bill will cure the issues that we have. These MPs sat with me in Parliament. We passed the budget with them, knowing that there's 5% increment on CDF, knowing that they want roads and those roads have been put there. We have a budget that we must finance. They didn't oppose those things in Parliament. They didn't say we don't want this budget. They didn't trash the budget. But they come and want to trash the finance bill, which is supposed to finance the budget. They need to be sincere. You know, when you come to national TV, forget about political rhetoric and how many bonga points you're making out there in terms of politics. Be factual. Speak here like a member of Parliament that has been elected, and you have an intelligentsia to be able to know this is the process. Today, if a member of Parliament says, well, William Ruto needs to pull down the Finance Act, I'll look at you and say, are you a member of Parliament really? Because there's procedure and we know procedure. Okay. If this finance bill passed through Parliament, whether they refused to vote on it, whether they voted no on it, and it was passed by Parliament, even if William Ruto refused to sign that, even if he had refused to sign it, within a certain number of days, 2 weeks, it becomes an act on its own. It takes a life of its own. Only a court of law. And I'm happy they've gone to court. And I do not know, because a lot of those provisions are not being implemented now because the Finance Act has been blocked by court.
But some of them
we are waiting.
Implemented.
Yes, and someone has gone to court on contempt because the president said, as long as this thing is in court, I was with him and the president said, as long as the Finance Act is in court, Owen, our hands are tied.
Okay.
And let the courts make a decision. So they should not come to national TV and speak things that are not factual. And Mugabe, I will call you out. You are not factual.
Don't worry, Honorable Baya. That's all of us are here. Please don't go away. That's all of us are here.
Sam, the immediate former speaker here is actually the deputy leader of the majority, and it's shocking that in your communication, you've made it seem like as if we are doing the first budget in Kenya.
Yes.
We do budget every year.
Yes.
And let me tell you, the issue of the finance bill, what we are concerned about is the excessive taxation, that burden that is being put on our people. Now, even if we were to take it back to Parliament, you know very well that Mugabe can bring it any day.
Yes.
But you know that it will not see light of day because you and your team have been completely, taken over by the executive. You know that. We all know that. Every Kenyan knows that. Any primary school child knows Parliament of Kenya is dysfunctional because it takes instructions from State House. The minute we start becoming a parliament Owen Baya, that me as a deputy leader of my minority can talk to you and we can agree. That's a time that Parliament can operate. So he can bring the amendments. You will not pass them because you still take instructions from State House. We must we must save Parliament, and I'm happy the panel is only of members of Parliament.
Yes.
We must allow Parliament to also operate. In fact, let me tell you, what we should be doing, all of us in this panel today, we should be condemning the police for excessive use of violence. All of us. Because if you lose a child in Kilifi North because of police brutality, surely is that...
What if my child is a policeman?
Even the violence against the police, I have condemned it. We are condemning it. Yes, we are condemning it. But you see, you cannot glorify a use of excessive force.
No one is glorifying.
You cannot accuse us of not bringing amendments because you know very well that you will not pass them. But let's agree from now, we either become a parliament that's functional or we disband this house and we
But Sam, let me tell you.
Stop earning taxpayers' money.
Let me finalize by saying this, Sam. Let me tell you this, Sam.
Yes.
These people are saying that the Kenya Kwanza government is controlled by the president, and they will only say what the president is saying. But let me tell you, Sam, and I can say this with all honesty. When this issue of the finance bill went to public, there was an outcry in public. I can tell you there was a lot of discussion in Kenya Kwanza, and everybody decided that we need to go and see the president and discuss the way forward because of the heat that is in the country. We went and faced him, and Sam, let me tell you, Kenyans faced the parliamentarians in Kenya Kwanza talked to the president and told him, this is the reaction we are getting from the public. The president took 1, 2, 3, almost 4 hours explaining what this means to him and what it means to the country. He told us, from where I sit and from the situation the country is in, this finance bill is going to cause some little pain for some time to this country, including to us people in government, and even those and even to the citizen. And he explained very well. But what is going to happen is, in as much as we're going to go through all these some moments of pains, we as a country need to pass a resolution that we are not going to be now a country of borrowing. What happens to individuals? Sometimes when we come to resolutions of end of year, or even sometimes when you have to borrow from this bank to pay this bank, then from this bank to pay to M-Pesa, then from M-Pesa to pay to this, and you sit and tell yourself, I'm going to change this life, this way of living. And you know, when we go and we sit there with him, and the guy stood there for 3 hours explaining to us with all his economists why we are getting to where we are. And now he said that just as we have kept on telling our people, it is going to cause us some little pain for some time. But after some time, we go. So when somebody tells us that we work with...
After that session,
yes.
So what did you do with what the people had told you?
What we did with what the people had told us, because he explained to us for almost 3 hours, we went and told our people this. This is the situation where we are in, and this is where the country is. So this is what we have kept on telling people. This is the situation, and the country is in a very bad situation. We may not be able to do what maybe everybody expects us to do for now, because people are still, you know, the country is in a bad state. So there are people who, when people are hungry, they may not really listen to what you're telling them. But you see, like now, what did the president say? One thing we need to do is we need to subsidize fertilizer and give it to our people so that we start planting. And our God of heaven gave us rain. And now in the next 2 months, we will be talking a different story about Unga. But when you tell us that Unga is going to be subsidized by people running in the streets and demonstrating, what are you trying to tell us? Then finally...
We're still at the finance bill.
Let me finally then come back to the finance bill. When we are in Parliament and discussing the finance bill, what do these guys do when they are in Parliament? Immediately we start discussing about it. I don't know what happens. They are the people who've been sent by their people to go and represent them. Work to the end and make sure they bring their statement. The finance bill is bad. So what is good? What options are you giving us? The option they give us is walk out of Parliament, and they go and they leave us alone in Parliament. So what do we do? They walked out of Parliament.
End on the finance bill. That is a fact.
Honorable Murada, I don't think that is factual. They walked out during.
We were there.
I don't lose.
Just hold on. We're getting to the tail end of the show. There's something you've said that we're a country of borrowing and we will stop being that.
We
How
had
so?
to.
But
we had to. For now, we said, and everybody knows, and even them, they know. They only want to create issues that are neither here nor there.
No.
Because we had borrowed.
How much have we borrowed?
We had borrowed.
Allow her to respond.
The country, well, when we talked to the president and asked him, now our people want to know, where is this finance bill taking us? Because they are feeling it is becoming very complicated. And the guy tells, or rather the president tells us, the situation we are in as a country, we have borrowed to the ceiling, and we cannot continue we cannot continue borrowing to pay in our consumptions of our everyday. Like we borrow to
And
pay
I don't have a
salaries.
problem. I have heard that clearly.
And he said, we cannot continue borrowing. So what are we going to do? We are going to pay from our very own taxes.
Are we borrowing?
And we all know as a country.
Honorable brother, are we borrowing anything in this budget?
Yes.
Yes.
How much?
But we have to reduce on our borrowing. We cannot keep borrowing until we reach a situation where we will.
Honorable brother, did you know that between September last year and May this year, the government has borrowed 900 billion shillings?
Yes, I have heard.
Under President William Ruto?
Yes.
So what is this conversation about?
But the issue has been, we have been borrowing for everything, even to pay salaries. We have been borrowing for everything.
Okay.
Even to pay salaries, we borrow. Even for everything was being borrowed so that we subsidize for what we cannot be able to cater for. But the president told us we cannot, as a country, like now there was a time our salaries were delayed. Was it last month or the other month? And he still told us that your salaries will still come, but we have to get our taxes to pay your salaries.
Okay.
We cannot go and borrow to come and pay your salaries.
All right, Honorable Mugabe, I want you to have the final word because you are practically out of time. The way forward. It's just the day before Wednesday.
I think the way forward is for the government and especially Kenya Kwanza to listen to the voices of Kenyans, to look at the plight that is facing Kenya, to look at the real issue. One, we have cost of living that is skyrocketing every day. We must address that with immediacy. Number two, and very important for this country, and what will save the face of this country, is IBC commissioners. We should not have it unilaterally done. We must come to the table and involve all parties in the selection of the IBC.
But you left the bipartisan talks.
Yes, we left the bipartisan talks because there was no genuinity in it. It was not genuine. Especially we did not have basically genuine participation from the government. Yes, that's what I'm saying. They need to be real and genuine, because I personally would not want to go to even an election where the commissioners are selected unilaterally. What will kill this country is IBC. Issues of IBC commissioners, because we know what happened the last election. We don't want that. We need to revisit and even think of the IPPG of 1997. As much as it did not solve all the problems, we need to relook at a new design of having IBC commissioners so that we can enter these coming elections.
I hear you. I need to take a look at the feedback that has come to us.
Some just half a minute.
Sam Gishuku, the hashtag to use is a daybreak on what Kenyans are saying, because the leaders have spoken. Babu Michael is saying, why is the government protecting the counter demos organized by Kenya Kwanza allies and try to thwart those organized by Azimio leader or leaders? Are we in two different countries? Is it that some notifications are acceptable and some are not? Double standards. Mfalme Duncan, King. I'm very ashamed to be Kenyan. Truth be told, our leaders have become so selfish and our lives don't even matter. I feel like both factions are using us. Time will tell. Brian Chemwa, the government shouldn't suppress political opposition, curtail civil liberties, and stifle free speech, which breeds dissent and resistance. As youths of this country, we condemn the police killings. Youths should also stay away from Andamano theatrics. Sir Nixon Dugire, what's coming out in relations to understanding constitutionalism in this country is that there ought to be public sensitization or education on this. Most leaders read articles halfway and only what favors them. For instance, Article 37 of the Constitution. Gori Baraza, the current state of affairs in the country should tell William Ruto's administration that we are headed to a bleak and dark future. Kenya Kwanza leadership should quickly put a cap on the lawlessness witnessed in the country. And Babu Michael again, when I hear CS use demeaning words like kulia towards a former president, to me it sounds more political than lawful. Like they are just trying to prove that they are the ones in power. The former president has been silent and non-political, that's according to Babu Michael. I wish I had more time. We would have had more opportunities to say some more things. But the take home is that they cannot agree. They are not agreeing. Honorable Mbui says that Parliament has been or is being controlled from State House. Owen Baya disagrees, but they have work to do and they must do it. It's the only Parliament that we have. My name is Sam Gituku. See you some other time. Bye for now.